Here we are in our part 2 of lessons 4 and 5 in chapter 1, multiplying and dividing integers. We are now going to discuss how using exponents come into play here. So how I want to think about exponents and what they are. Some of you might call them powers. I want to think about the relationship between exponents and the answer's sign. And we're going to see if we notice anything in terms of what the exponent is and what the answer you might get when we're dealing with positive and negative numbers. So let's look at this example here up at the top. I was squaring -3. Notice how -3 is in the parentheses. The exponent, or squaring it, tells me that I have 2 of them. An exponent is the number of times you have that number. So what that means is I'm multiplying -3 together 2 times. As you can see, I laid it out. We have -3 times a -3. When you do that math, you get a positive 9. Because they have the same signs, our answer should be positive. So let's do a few other examples and see if we start to notice anything in terms of a relationship. So let's look at example 1. I have -4 and my exponent is 2. So -4 to the second power, or we say that as -4 squared. Notice again how it has parentheses. So I want to keep that around my -4. I have 2 -4s. So let's write that down. What is -4 times a -4? Well, just think to yourself, what's 4 times 4? Hopefully you're thinking 16. Now think of your rules. A negative times a negative. We just did it here. Same signs. Our answer should be positive. Let's try the next one, number 2. Notice I have a -2, but I don't have those parentheses like I did in the first example, or the first problem and in the example. When you don't have parentheses, that means that negative is not with that 2. It means it's just right in front of your problem. So we're going to just bring that right down into our answer. So what this means is that I have 3 just 2's. Those are stuck together though. I have -2 cubed, but really just the 2 is getting cubed. Meaning I have 3 2's. So let's write that down. I have 2 times 2 times 2. Multiply those together for me. 2 times 2 gives you 4, and then 4 times 2 gives you 8. My answer then is -8. The reason it's negative, remember, is you're bringing that negative into your answer automatically when there is no parentheses there. All right, our next one, we're back to having some parentheses. I have a -1 to the 5th power, meaning I have 5 -1s. So I have -1 times -1 times -1. So go ahead and write -1 being multiplied together in parentheses 5 times. So this is where it gets a little tricky. Think to yourself, -1 times -1 gives me +1. +1. Look, I have a negative left over here. So let's keep multiplying these together. What's +1 times +1? +1. But now what's a +1 times a -1? That gives our answer a -1. Remember, when you're multiplying ones together, it equals 1, right? A number multiplied by 1 is always itself. Well, if we're multiplying ones by ones, we're just getting ones. So our answer is a -1. Let's see, did we notice any relationships? Take a look at all these examples. Any relationships between the exponent and the answer's sign. So maybe let's look here. We had a 2 and our answer was positive. We had a 2, our answer was positive. We had a 3, our answer was negative. We had a 5, our answer was negative. What kind of number, or what kind of numbers are 3 and 5? They're both what? Think of a relationship between 3 and 5. I'm thinking they're both odd. What about 2s? What kind of number is a 2? Then 2s are even, right? I'm thinking even and odds here. When you have an even exponent, your answer is going to be positive. When you have an odd exponent, your answer is going to be negative. So you might want to make that note here. Write both of those points down for me. Even exponent means your answer will be positive. An odd exponent means that it will be negative. I apologize, my pen's fading out there for you. Let me reiterate what I want you to write and write the entire thing down, that entire statement. Even exponents give you a positive answer. Odd exponents give you a negative answer. Once you've written that down, let's continue on to our last part of our notes here. Evaluating expressions. This is when we're plugging in values for different variables. So our first example, A is negative 18, B is negative 6. I plugged those in. Whoops. I divided them and got a positive 3. So when we're evaluating expressions, we're going to replace the variables with those numbers. A nice reminder, we're going to use orders of operations when needed. So let's look at our next example here. A, we are told is negative 18, so let's plug that in. And then keep the rest. Now I have addition happening in my numerator, and then I have division. Remember, think of PEMDAS here, but really I do have to get rid of this first up top. So let's add those. What's a negative 18 and a positive 6 give you? Think. We're adding, you should be thinking of SADs. Same sign add, different signs we subtract. These have different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. 18 minus 6 gives me 12. Remember, with different signs, we subtract and then take the sign of the larger number. So our larger number 18, we take that sign, that means my answer is going to be negative. But we're not done. We still have to do the divided by 3. What's a negative 12 divided by 3? You hopefully are thinking a negative 4, and if you are, you're correct. 12 divided by 3 is 4. A negative divided by a positive gives us a negative. Let's keep moving along here. Next, number 5, let's plug in B as a negative 6. A is a negative 18. Oops. And let's evaluate. We do our exponents first. Reminder, there's no parentheses there. So just bring that down into your answer. 6 times 6 is 36. A negative 36 divided by a negative 18, that's our next step. That gives you a positive 2. But we're not done. We still have to add 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. Remember, pause as you need to if I'm moving too quickly, and get this all written down. And our last one here, we're plugging in a -6 divided by a -18. Now be careful. It's not 18 divided by 6. Like in our first example here, we flipped them, so you should not be getting a 3 as your answer. Maybe you want to even think of it, remember, we can write division as a fraction. Might be easier to think about it. And you might want to just simplify that to 1/3. A negative divided by a negative means my answer should be +1/3. You should not be using a calculator. If you do, you're going to get a weird decimal. That's why we don't use calculators yet. Alrighty, so we went through evaluating expressions and we went through, exponents and evaluating expressions. I'm going to skip this last example here. If you're up for a challenge, go for it and work out that problem on your own.